We're at East Critical Fall with our first Next Fest of 2024, either right around the corner or out by the time you're watching this. It's time to have a yearly chat about what marketing means for indie developers, and some of the major trends you should be taking note of if you want to market your game this year. As I said in the stinger, this is going to be marketing advice for insert year here, or should I say 2024. This is a very important point to mention. For anyone who's watching this, looking for marketing advice, if you've been looking at popular videos, it's very important to look at the year that it was published. A video that's gotten millions and millions of views, but it was published in 2012, 2014, is most likely not going to help you today. Conversely, if you're watching this in the future, this video may not be helpful. If you're watching this in the past, well, it's about to get a lot worse for you. But when we talk about marketing for indie games and indie studios, there are two major trends you should be taking note of and you should be trying to capitalize on for this year, and that will help you out. The first one that I want to discuss is virality. And no, I didn't make a mistake there. We're going to be talking about kind of how to make your game go viral when it comes to social media, trailers, store pages, whatever. If no one's ever used that word before, then I am going to immediately copyright it. And if someone's already used it, then they must have obviously have stolen it from me. But one of the major aspects of marketing your game is being able to convey to someone, why should they give a damn about it? So for every developer, student, enthusiast who's working on a game right now, can you answer me this simple question? What makes your game special? Why should someone play your game above anyone else's? And I'm hoping that all of you have an answer for that. But let's make things a little bit harder. Tell me what makes your game unique or special, but you have less than 5 seconds to do so. Now it gets a little bit trickier, and this is an important aspect, because one of the major tools developers have is the use of GIFs. Being able to put out a few seconds at a time of something crazy, interesting, weird, unique, special, other dynamic words that you can imagine. And while you may be thinking that this is a joke, it's not. Part of good social media practices and getting your game out there is being able to showcase, again, why should someone care about it? And when we talk about putting this into a viral GIF or trying to make a viral GIF, again, it's about showing something that just sells the uniqueness of your game. If your game is about grapple physics, I want to see your character grapple around. I want to see them jumping here, there, everywhere. I want to see them doing their best Spider-Man impression. Your game's about explosions, show explosions. Gunplay, jumping, you name it. But, again, you have to be able to convey to someone why your game is special from all the other games they're going to be looking at. I, of course, follow many developers and people in the industry, and when they see something that catches their eye from a GIF, they're going to tweet it. Again, I follow Dave Oshry from New Blood, so whenever he sees something weird or wonderful, I get to know about it. And so does everyone else who follows him. And then those who follow him will retweet that. And again, you can see how this can spiral. And being able to convey this in very short, very bite-sized, easy-to-digest footage is incredibly important. To give you another example, I remember seeing on Facebook a few years ago this weird game that showed a character doing 2D shooting and slow-mo and kicking things, and they kicked a frying pan, and when they shot the frying pan, the bullets hit all the enemies in the area. This game should sound familiar to you because this was an early concept of my friend Pedro, a game that was eventually picked up by Devolver. And if you are an indie developer with a weird, unique, something that hasn't been seen before game, you gotta get a GIF. You have to get that in front of people. Because this is how you build a very popular reputation or get notoriety for your game. even if you don't even have a full game yet, if you have something weird or different, something that hasn't been seen before by any other studio, get that up on social media. And again, even if you don't have a name for your game yet, if your game is just called Insert Game Here right now, this is still a way to build credibility about you as a studio. And if you can do this on a frequent basis, all the more power to you. Now, here's the bad news, because I'm sure a few of you are probably typing this down in the comments below. What about a story-driven game? What about a turn-based strategy, turn-based RPG? A game that doesn't have that explosion of real-time effects and graphics. Do I still need to make a catchy GIF? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, you do. Even if the amount of your combat is something like this. Character going like this on one side of the screen. Character going like this on one side of the screen. You still need to be able to sell and promote your game as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So, again, the question still remains the same. What makes your game special? And here's the bad news for you, and we're going to be very blunt here. If you can't answer that question, whether it takes you 5 seconds, 2 seconds, 4 minutes, you don't have a marketable game in the year of 2024. And this sounds very mean and nasty, but it is unfortunately the truth. Part of what we're going to be talking about in our second major topic for today is that you need to be able to show to someone why your game stands out from all the other games on Steam or store pages or on social media. And you have to be able to answer this question. So go back to a turn-based, story, whatever kind of game. Again, what makes your game different? Do you have really funny writing? Do you have really unique pixel art? What about a puzzle game? Maybe you're developing a Incredible Machine mousetrap style game. You could show a puzzle where, a bowling pin hits over a, roller skate. This roller skate hits a target. The target flies into a fish tank, and the fish flops onto a button, which launches a firework that hits a chain that explodes, and then the cage falls and completely misses the mouse, as it always does. These are things that you can do and that you can show your game off. Again, it's not about showing the 100% grandmaster perfect play of your game. It's about just showing off, hey, my game does this, and this is something you're not going to find anywhere else. If you remember that other FPS that we looked at, the one that you're looking through a rear view mirror and you're shooting enemies behind you. Again, anything that is selling your game on something different, this is what you want to get out there. And more importantly, this is fodder that you can use or footage for your trailers. You have something unique? Put it in the damn trailer. You don't want to have a trailer that's 50 minutes of someone just fumbling through cutscenes and menus. I've seen developers do that on their store pages. Don't do that for yours. So, the other point that I want to talk about, and this is the other major trend that it has been taking root in the last few years, but it's still a major point for 2024, is festivals. Again, part of the reason why this video is going up is that the next Steam Next Fest festival should be happening very, very soon. So if you don't know what a festival is, this is where you have a collection of games that will usually belong to a specific topic, specific brand, and they will get mentioned and blasted on Steam. There will be free demos, sales. This is just a way to consolidate a lot of games into one easily locatable and digestible marketing event. And there are 3 kinds of festivals on Steam currently. The first is the officially sanctioned festival. So this again is Next Fest. This is the big leagues. This is where you have the greatest number of eyes going to be looking at these games. Most importantly, Next Fest only allows you to post your game one time. So this is when you need to be very mindful of how your game looks and feels to play. For the love of all that is good in the world, if you are still using placeholder art, placeholder menus, your entire gameplay loop isn't finished, you don't have an options menu, you don't have a title screen, do not go on Next Fest. And I am staring into your soul right now because a few developers have done just that. Next Fest is the one and only time, or one only opportunity you have to post a game on it. If your game is bad and it gets put on Next Fest, that is all people are going to see, and that's what they're going to remember about your game when it gets shown on a major store page or when it is released. And you don't want to do this. Next Fest is the greatest opportunity you have in terms of getting people aware on your game. And if they're aware of your game being horrible, you just killed any marketing that you had on Steam. And as another point, for any festival that is on Steam, if you're going to get on there, make sure your thumbnail art is incredibly on point. Even if that means hiring an artist to do it for you. Because the first thing people are going to do when they're on Next Fest or any festival, they're going to scan thumbnails. They're going to see what looks eye-catching, what stands out. And if your game just looks like someone just put a bunch of stuff together, hit Control-C, Control-V, and called it a day, they're not going to give your game the time of day. And then make sure that your tags that you have for your capsule or for your About This Game section are also on point. Because once they look at that thumbnail, they're going to see, well, what kind of game is it? Are they in the mood for a visual novel, strategy, life sim, adult game, because there's a lot of them on festivals as well. Make sure those are there. Now, the second kind of festival is the kind of Steam is not officially sanctioning it, but they are still supporting it nonetheless festival. So these are major events. So this will be stuff like Tacticon, Ludonarracon, the Brazil Game Festival. How you can tell is that when you click on, or when you're looking on Steam, is this festival mentioned on the front of the store page? There's a major point about this when we get to the third example. But when you go to any game that's a part of a festival, you'll see that banner on the top of the store page. If it's being shown on the front page of Steam, then Steam is kind of officially supporting it, even though it's not directly run by Valve. These festivals are oftentimes built on a very specific marketing event. Realms Deep, of course, celebrates anything and everything shooter related. For this category, you want your game on there. And you also kind of want it for the third category, so we'll talk about that very quickly. The third group are festivals that are not being broadcasted or publicized by Steam. So these are smaller festivals that either there's not enough games or it's not big enough to be mentioned, or the category may be just too wide, such as, here's a festival for every game that involves jumping. I wonder how many games could fit into that. So these will be games that you still see that banner at the top of the store page, but you do not see it on the front page of Steam. And many smaller genres or many smaller developers will oftentimes get together and do these things, and they're a great step. Ideally, you want your festival to be mentioned and kind of supported by Valve. And to do that, you need to submit it to it, and they need to approve it. So the reason why you want to get into festivals like this and the previous one, this is a great way to consolidate a lot of games that would be maybe too niche, too weird, a little hard to market on their own. So this is where if your game has anything that stands out above, maybe it doesn't fit into just one genre. Maybe it has like a combination. It's a slice of life driving sim 4X space romance game. These festivals are a great way to market your game, because when people are searching for all the other games that have demos or just being mentioned, they're going to find yours. And again, if you did your job right with a good thumbnail, with good tags, this is a great way to use a festival to be your own form of marketing. And if your game, and again, the other point about the kind of the festivals that are being supported by Valve and the ones that aren't, is that if your game has any percentage of adhering to the topic of that festival about story games, festival about platformers, whatever, get your game in there, or try to get your game in there as best as you can. Because the major aspect of what makes festivals such an effective marketing tool, again, is that this is how a lot of games just kind of create their own feedback loop of marketing. So one of these games may not be big enough or interesting enough to do marketing on its own. But if it's a massive event on Steam, if it's, again, being mentioned on the front page, suddenly all these niche and hard to market games now have their own marketing event. And it's a marketing event where everyone is going to be able to see it, provided, of course, if Steam broadcasts it. And as another point, for any developers, if you're interested in running a festival on your own on Steam, make sure you set up the page right. That means having categories for newly announced games, for different genres or categories of games. If you have free demos that are premiering during your festival, have a category for them. And yes, I'm still staring into your soul because a few of you have done the opposite of that, where it becomes a pain to find what demos are available. And if you are mentioned in the free demo category, make sure it's up. Again, a few of you are wondering why I am staring right at you as I'm talking about this, but I've seen developers and festival organizers make that mistake. If it becomes a pain to find out about games during your festival, then it is going to be a failure of an event. And also, make sure to do some amount of vetting of the games. Because I've seen developers who will just let anything and everything go, even if it doesn't match. Here's a hentai game about match 3 cards in the roguelike category. Here's a driving sim in the platformer category. And yes, this happens more times than you may think. To wrap up our video for today, festivals and making your game go viral are incredibly important tactics that you can use to help sell your game, help sell your store page, and get more awareness about this. Now, with the festival angle, again, you want to make sure that your game is at the point that you can show off what makes it special. If you are still fumbling around your core gameplay loop, if the art isn't even 10% done, if this is again just a barely put together demo of a pre-alpha build of your game, even if it's not a Next Fest festival, you don't want your demo to be a part of it. Again, anything that we've talked about today, it is predicated on you already having that unique selling point in your game. That one thing, you obviously want more, but you need at least one thing. One thing that stands out above the rest. That thing that, again, you can explain or show to someone in less than 5 seconds. And if you have that, that is a great jumping off point. Because this is how your game gets noticed. This is how YouTubers and streamers and influencers will pick the games they want to cover. If they see this weird game that has a strange title, but everyone is talking about, everyone is making GIFs, that one thing you posted on X, Twitter, or whatever has blown up, they're going to check it out. And if they check it out, their friends will probably check it out. And their consumers, or the people who watch their content, will check it out. And as another point for any developers, and we're talking about small developers here, this is another way to get publishers and people who want to support your game interested in it. As another tangent, if you're going to be on Kickstarter, you need people to know about your game beforehand. No one is going to give your game the time of day if they just heard about it day one of your Kickstarter event. Just as like they're not going to give your game any interest if you release it and on day one of your game available on Steam, that's when you start doing marketing and publicizing it. And I just gave every social media person a heart attack by saying those words. Again, part of what makes game dev so challenging is that you need to prove to people that your game is worth investing in. Whether it's a $60 game, $20 game, $5 game, dollar game, even if your game is $0.00, you still need to be able to do this. And it gets harder and harder every single year to do it. So with all that said, and that little happy note, here's a question for you watching this. What are some of your favorite festivals to keep track of on Steam? And can you think of games that kind of exploded thanks to a really great viral tweet, viral GIF, whatever, and how it did benefit those studios? That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.